I think this brings us into a part of the conversation that I really, really wanted to explore with you a bit about the role of women and gender in food security into the future. But I wanted to start off by saying a little plug for Sharon Satoni. Yeah,
It's
so
very
she
special.
has started, along with other women from around the world, a group called G100, which I am so fortunate to be one of the enabling first members of for Australia. And our chapter of G100 is called Food Systems Innovation and Resilience. So our work is as a group of women, 100 global women, looking at how we influence government and organisations towards better food choices and a more gender equal future. And so the role of women in this debate, I wanted to ask you first of all about the work you're doing with Food for Climate League.
Yes, so I want to be very clear. I'm on the advisory board, and I'm very proud to be on the advisory board, but I am not the main work is being done by the incredible team led by Eve Thoreau Paul, the founder. And essentially it's a woman-led nonprofit working to make climate smart eating the norm. And so what they
Brilliant.
do is they create toolkits and campaigns and programs. But what's really interesting is that their work is really founded in behavioral science research. So going back to what I just talked about, empathy, understanding people's behavior. There's a lot of cultural sociology and anthropology that is being used to figure out how do we help people make climate smart eating choices. And they work with corporates, they work with other nonprofits, they work with institutions, foundations, they do research projects, they do trials,
Brilliant.
and they try to show through using behavioral research that you can actually do things like make the climate choice the default choice, and renaming items on menus can help people make different food choices, and the way you place things in a food spread can actually make a difference, right? So they're trying to help create enabling really tools for other organizations to then be able to roll out and have great
Brilliant.
impact. And what I love about what they do, and it's really important, it's something I've been talking about for a really long time now, is the power of protein transition in the food service. I think we spend too much time focused on the protein transition at the retail level and at the consumer levels. But for me, where there's incredible impact and positive movement and positive behavioral change is in things like food service. So cafeterias, whether they be in schools, prisons, government offices, corporates, hospitals. There's just a lot of ways there that we can move the dial and affect hundreds of thousands of people at a time.
I put out a report a few months ago called Transforming the Food System, and basically a set of lessons for government about what we could be doing. And the central message, or one of the five central messages, is we're the biggest purchaser of so many items, food being one of them, with our prison system, with our health system, with our education system. And as a major purchaser of goods and services, governments are in an absolutely perfect position to do some amazing work in this sector.
Yeah, the other win beneath those sails is really this legislation around scope 3 emissions that's finally come to you know come to fruit in Europe, and hopefully will be adopted in other countries too. California has a version of it, though not the rest of the US. Um, and basically what it makes abundantly clear is that food companies and food service companies have to very much look at their scope 3 emissions, which means veering towards lower carbon foods in the future if they are going to reach their net zero emissions goals without doing things like just buying carbon credits. Companies were
Yes.
happy to share scope 1 and 2, but there was nothing around scope 3. Now that we have data around scope 3, it's going to create a knock-on effect of companies looking at, all right, we need to make it so that our consumers or our brands or
Yeah.
our chefs are choosing lower carbon foods, because that has an
Amazing.
impact on our bottom line.
I really wanted to pursue with you on your own work in publishing, Sonali. And I know that you publish cookbooks, and so I wanted to find out from you, what part do you think, part do you think again your publishing of cookbooks has in helping define a new future for food?
One of the earlier things you wanted to talk about was about the power of women in changing food systems. And if there's one thing that really makes me sad, is that women do not have enough control over the big food choices, in the sense that there are not enough women leading the way at big food companies, in food policy jobs, in big food buyer jobs. And that is just crazy to me, because something like 85% of grocery bill decisions are made by a woman. Women tend to be by far, across all countries, the deciders of what their household eats. So women are the cooks, they are the meal planners, they are the nutritionists of their households. And yet they have such a small role in deciding what is on those shelves, what is grown, how it's grown in the fields. And that's a huge issue. And cooking, to me, is a very difficult subject, because on one hand, it's this incredible gift that womankind has given to humanity. On the other hand, it's also this incredible chore that womankind has been ascribed with. But when cooking is something you have to do, it is so much harder to bring joy and, gratitude to the task. And so I think we're in such a quandary, because on one hand, one of the biggest things you can say to people is, oh, cook more at home. That's like a way to be more sustainable. But by doing that, you are increasing a woman's second shift. You are increasing her homework, just her extra work, when she likely has a career and other things that she's already juggling. So I really struggle with that. And I think that we need to be instead thinking about solutions where we provide urban families with more home cooked food, but it's not all down to the mother or the woman to be responsible for executing that. And so they're kind of worlds of happiness and joy, because food and cooking to me is joy. But for other people, they might represent drudgery and, shackles. And so I want to hold space for those ideas, and those feelings. And again, what does it always come down to is empathy and putting yourself in someone else's shoes.
My last question, and this is a bit tongue in cheek. If I could grant you a superpower, what would it be?
There's a part of me that's like a little girl that's like, I would love to be able to fly. But what I really think I would like to do with my superpower is actually give others like an automatic empathy. Leading, I really do believe that we would be in a different world. That doesn't mean that I don't think that there's space to disagree with people and have different kind of agendas and different interests and different preferences, but we really just have lost this ability to empathize, and we do not train it anymore. And because we've become, a neoliberal, like growth, profit, power, status part, a society, global society, we've completely lost the ability to celebrate empathy. We see it as a weakness. We often relegate it to like the feminine sphere. And we tend to kind of look at the lens of human evolution only by picking only the traits that apply to neoliberalism, which is that we're competitive and we're status driven and we are, power hungry. And it's so funny because we're also other things. And why do we only kind of focus on one half of our traits in our society and what we revere? And we've forgotten the other half. And that's why I think our society is so unbalanced.
Thank you so much for your time and for having a chat with me. I really deeply appreciate it. And I wish you so much joy and happiness over the holiday season.
I will, and I love the holiday season. It always recharges me. I always
Yeah,
find I love this opportunity to be festive and joyful and thoughtful
beautiful.
around this time of the year.
Thank you